I wasn't necessarily expecting this, and she's already suggesting that people kill themselves. That's like a speedrun for being a terrible person on the internet. I don't know what to say about this. Are you or is someone you know involved in a high demand group or movement, commonly known as a cult? So I'm gonna go through the checklist of characteristics. Why? Because recently, prominent content creator, you may know as Mr. Girl or Max Carson, had like a really long interview, has been very critical of another content creator called Brittany Simon. On the surface, just does some like wacky new age shit, but she's being accused of basically starting an online cult. Those who are familiar with my content, who've been following me for quite a while, last year I did cover the concept of what an online cult is, because I covered a specific one centered around a person called Teal Swan. I'm not going to talk about Teal Swan today. I think I'm going to do like another segment about her, maybe tomorrow, maybe later this week. But I need to find the research I had on her like last year again to like do a comprehensive piece. Regardless, we have like a rough idea what is or isn't a cult, but we're going to go over this again, have a checklist to go through, and I guess I haven't pre-watched anything. I did watch a little bit of Brittany Simon yesterday. Basically, I just want to go through this and see if Brittany Simon deserves that title of being a cult guru or not. I'm not sure she does. All right. Deception lies at the core of mind manipulating and high-demand cultic, that is, groups and programs. Many members and supporters of these groups / movements are not fully aware of the extent to which they have been abused and exploited. This checklist of characteristics helps to define such groups. Comparing the descriptions on this checklist to aspects of the group with which you or a family member or loved one is involved may help determine if this involvement is cause for concern. If you check any of these items as characteristic of the group, and particularly if you check most of them, you might want to consider re-examining the group and its relationship to you. Keep in mind that this checklist is meant to stimulate thought. It is not a scientific method of diagnosing a group. We suggest that you check all characteristics that apply to you or your loved one's group, then print this browser page for future reference. 1. The group is focused on a living leader to whom members seem to display excessively zealous and questioning commitment. Teal Swan checks this. The group is preoccupied with bringing in new members. The group is preoccupied with making money. Questioning, doubt, and dissent are discouraged or even punished. Mind-numbing techniques such as meditation, chanting, speaking in tongues, denunciation sessions, debilitating work routines, are used to suppress doubts about the group and its leaders. The leadership dictates sometimes in great detail how members should think, act, and feel. For example, members must get permission from leaders to date, change jobs, get married. Leaders may prescribe what types of clothes to wear, where to live, how to discipline children, and so forth. The group is elitist, claiming a special, exalted status for itself, its leaders, and members. For example, the leaders considered the Messiah or an avatar. The group and/or the leader has a special mission to save humanity. The group has a polarized us versus them mentality, which causes conflict with the wider society. The group's leader is not accountable to any authorities, as are, for example, military commanders and ministers, priests, monks, and rabbis of mainstream denominations. Why does it remind me of my workplace? The group teaches or implies that its supposedly exalted ends justify means that members would have considered unethical before joining the group. For example, collecting money for fake charities. The leadership induces guilt feelings in members in order to control them. Members' subservience to the group causes them to cut ties with family and friends, and to give up personal goals and activities that were of interest before joining the group. Members are expected to devote inordinate amounts of time to the group. Members are encouraged or required to live and/or socialize only with other group members. Then there's a different definition here from another organization. ICSA, a cultic studies research and educational nonprofit organization, published this definition, accepted by many researchers. A cult is a group or movement exhibiting great or excessive devotion or dedication to some person, idea, or thing, employing unethical, manipulative, or coercive techniques of persuasion and control, that is, isolation from former friends and family, debilitation, use of special methods to heighten suggestibility and subservience, powerful group pressures, information management, suspension of individuality or judgment, promotion of total dependency on the group and fear of leaving it. Designed to advance the goals of the group's leaders, to the actual or possible detriment of members, their families, or the community. If a group that you belong to has many of the following criteria to a significant degree, you have cause for concern. The group is led by one or a few individuals, charismatic, determined, domineering. The leaders are self-appointed and claim to have a special mission in life. The group centers its veneration on the leaders directly rather than on God, a higher political power, science, or whatever. The group structure is hierarchical and authoritarian. The group tends to be totalitarian, with elaborate rules and rituals that occupy large parts of every day. The group usually has 2 or more sets of ethics, one for the leadership, another for the membership, one for outsiders, another for insiders. A relaxed set for recruiting purposes, a much more demanding set for the committed member. The group usually presents itself as innovative and exclusive, even elitist. The group has 2 main purposes, recruiting new members and fundraising. Are all New Age religions cults? No. Many New Age, pagan, Eastern, and other new religious movements are known for their openness to other traditions, democratic structure, and fiercely non-commercial values. These are in direct opposition to cultic values. Just like any other human tradition, however, there are cults based around New Age, Eastern, UFO, or other alternative philosophies, just as there are Christian cults. Yeah, it's not tied to a specific origin of ideology. Aren't the US Marines a cult by your definition? Cults clearly differ from such purely authoritarian groups such as the military, some types of sects and communes, and centuries-old Roman and Catholic, blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, I don't care. I actually don't care. I feel like the list of qualities is useless without actually defining some threshold for becoming a cult, at least by this definition. Leaving it vague is sort of meh. So, look, this is a reality. A lot of societal stuff, it by nature is qualitative. Qualitative. It's not quantitative. You cannot quantify a societal phenomena. You can only qualify them, and that does lead to a level of subjectivity. But I mean, hey, if you design a better system to quantify things that we instead need to qualify when it comes to sociology, stuff like cults, etc., then man, you'll be loved in the academic field of sociology. They will love you. But like qualitative analysis has its place. It really does. Even if it's less precise, even if it's more prone to biases, it still has its place in science. Overall, it's very rare that you have situations where you can draw sharp definitions. Yeah, exactly. You can only do that with very strict, like mathematical sciences. There you can have sharp definitions. The second you deal with human stuff, with the human sciences, everything gets very qualitative. Starting to think these mythic Dawn Bros might be a cult after all. Yeah. So, we're going to kind of go at this the opposite way, because I actually cannot watch the Mr. Girl video without without like leaving Twitch. That being said, one first thing that I want to remark, I haven't been able to find actual central place that aggregates the people who follow her teachings. What I mean by that, if we compare to Teal Swan, I Google Teal Swan, I right away have tealswan.com. And in here, I have an ad for her Thrive in a Crisis course. I have the shop, I have events. I can right away be pulled into her community and meet the other people who follow her and give her money in order to have access to more of her exclusive content, etc. Yeah, she says she's an alien. The thing is this because Brittany Simon is less of a guru, has less of a malicious intention, or is this because she's just not as good at marketing herself as a cult leader? I don't know. I'll leave that to your appreciation. I'll think about it while watching her content. The fact that she doesn't have that yet, I think that does tend to show that, if anything, she's maybe not running a cult right now, but maybe she's engaging in culty behavior. Maybe we will see. That's what she's accused of. But maybe she just has the potential to like start running a cult. The thing is, so I like looked, as you can see, I like looked through some of her stuff. So she doesn't have any central place to consult with her, except from, well, she has an OnlyFans for her. but that doesn't matter at all. She has an email address. If you'd like a one-on-one call with Brittany, you can make an appointment via her Patreon. So you can pay, like, you can subscribe to her Patreon directly. I guess that's the closest thing to the tealswan.com page we have for her. So what is it? Like €4.50 per month. You get to be added to her Snapchat. I guess you can direct message her. Oh, see all 8 levels. And okay. Oh, so she does have a Discord. That's one of those things I was looking for. So she does have a Discord. That doesn't matter. He said she runs a sex cult. I don't know. I haven't seen the Mr. Girl stuff yet, Nept. I didn't know that was the accusation. Fair enough. If that's what Max Carson says, then the fact that she has an OnlyFans does actually matter. Absolutely. All I heard was that he accused her of running a cult. And I thought that had more to do with her new age stuff, which is openly available on YouTube, than the like sex work stuff. I wasn't aware. I think the model is more useful. It's about her levels thing. Yeah, exactly. And her levels thing doesn't have anything sexual to it. That I've actually pre-watched. I think the model is more useful if you can actually measure it and then compare a bunch of different models to understand the data deeper. Sure, it is more useful, but there are things that you cannot measure. That's what I mean when I say that there are quantitative aspects and qualitative aspects. I need to find that deep dive I did on her. It goes hard with the crazy. She's just so cringe. Fuck it, I'll join a cult. I didn't care anymore. Great. But you could measure it, like if you just define the threshold, you're proposing a more complete model. Sure. If they, like, it would be interesting to see threshold, like, even vague thresholds. But I guess that's the kind of stuff you'll see if, like, if we continue reading on, like, how they would distinguish between existing religions and cults. They have like this segment on why Marines aren't a cult. Something about, like, traditional religions not being cults, etc., etc. Meowko not online. I miss my cult leader. Rip. So, okay. This is something I hadn't found when I was looking at earlier because I didn't click on her Patreon. She actually does cater an exclusive private community that you need to pay to have access to, well, one-on-one calls, 1 hour calls, etc., etc. So she does actually have like a central point, a community. Which doesn't mean that it's a cult, but that is the starting point. If there is no collective following of her, then there kind of cannot be a cult. This can either be sus or sadly pretty normal influencer behavior. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. Without this, it's like almost impossible to say that she's running a cult. With this, that doesn't mean she is running a cult. But the first condition is satisfied. She is running a community that's centered around her. I guess we're going to watch the levels. This is like her new agey stuff. For those who've already watched this, I guess, I don't know. You get to watch it again.
Hello, future worm food. My name is Brittany, and I'm a stupid person on the internet who has a camera. In today's video, I'm going to share with you my life philosophy. This is how I observe humanity. You can write it off, you can think I'm stupid, crazy, whatever. I am interested in your opinions, and I do want you to try to debunk my philosophy as a way to help me grow as a human. So I'm being selfish, and I am asking you to take time out of your day to prove to me I'm wrong, because if you can't, well then, I must be right. But with that said, let's go through it.
Yeah, I mean that's sophistry. If someone cannot prove you're wrong, that doesn't mean you're right. But hey, she giggled when she said it, so let's be charitable. It was self-depreciating humor, and she's self-aware, and let's assume that, right? She's self-aware, and she knows that what she just said is stupid. I don't know if that's sounded like a bit of a meme. Yeah, exactly.
Disclaimer, was created with a co-author, but they would like to remain anonymous. So I will be taking all of the credit for this idiocy, or in some cases, geniosity, and I will go ahead and share with you.
Yeah, this intro is rife with self-depreciating humor. I wouldn't start digging at, like, the unironic interpretation of what she just said.
The levels. Now, this is important, and this is kind of the big disclaimer of the video. There are 3 specific reactions I tend to get when I share this. And if you feel like you might be any of them, consider either not finishing the video and exercising your free will and going to do something else, or just keep it in mind as you watch. The first reaction are people who love exploring the idea with me, they have a good time, and it's just something they think is silly, but they also think it's interesting enough to spend hours and hours discussing it with me. The second group of people are people who hate me and think I'm an idiot and an evil person, and arrogant and a narcissist. which I understand because what I'm about to say might feel very arrogant, but it is in no way, shape, or form meant to make people feel bad. It's meant to help you because it helped me live a more full and joyful life. The doggo will give his input through the video, I am sure. The third reaction is people who have literally gone insane. I've had this happen. It is not a joke. I have had people experience insanity when exploring these ideas with me because they get overwhelmed with not knowing the answers. But the point of the philosophy is not to force the truth inside of you. It is to choose how you want to examine the truth.
So what she's basically established, right, is you either agree with her, or you engage with her ideas for fun, or you are this bad faith person who attacks her character, or you are someone, or there's something dangerous with her philosophy apparently that can make you insane. So those last two aspects, they kind of bother me. Like, the former, when we go back to the cult listing, it's not strong, but it plays a little bit in the us versus them mentality. The people who read something bad into what she's going to describe are already like accusing her of being she's using this like irony whatever now to diffuse the attacks on accusing her of being a narcissist, accusing her of I guess indoctrinating people, etc. And the rhetoric about forcing the truth inside her. No, she said she doesn't want to force the truth inside of you, actually. Which we'll see if she does do that or not. And the last one, this idea of that some people may fall into insanity from hearing what she's going to say. Once again, this is very subtle. This doesn't mean already that it's a cult. This is just something that plays a small part in it. I read that as playing a bit to elitism, potentially. That is, if you don't go insane and you accede to her philosophy, you are already an exceptional human being. You are an exceptional human being. You've managed to listen to something that drives people insane, and you drew wisdom out of it. So the implication there is a little bit culty with what she just said. It's not clear. I'm not saying we've cracked the problem already, but we can start like tallying up things. There needs to be a lot of evidence to present. Just this is not enough. I assume the insanity she refers to is analogous to religious experiences. We will see. I have actually pre-watched this video, but I read one Nick Land post. She's nothing. I don't know who Nick Land is. To be fair, if someone was to say, I'm not here to force you, they are forcing you, but we gotta listen more. Yeah.
And so I will proceed to show you the levels and talk to you about them, but please remember to care for your own mental health through this process. Level 1 is the unsatisfied fool. Often these people can be examined as lower function.
Okay. Before we even get into what she actually is saying, talking about levels is a huge culty trigger for me. Cults always have elaborate hierarchies that you are going to be climbing. That goes back to elitism. You all already know, it's fucking obvious, you already know that she is going to be someone who is at the highest level of her hierarchy, right? It's obvious. I pre-watched it, but y'all already know where this is going. She has a special exalted status for herself and for the people highly involved with her philosophy. That is a pretty sussy way of approaching classifying people. But even if it wasn't levels, classifying people in different groups is in and of itself actually pretty suspicious. So it's about gatekeeping and stuff. Is Chow a cultist? For the low price of $29.95, you too can be a level 7 Dragon Lord. Well, we shall see how much it costs. And we already saw, we looked at her Patreon.
functioning humans, but I don't mean in terms of ability. I mean in terms of choices. They're people who have every reason to succeed. Money, access, support, and some don't, but in general they usually do. And they, for some reason, are self-sabotagers. They cannot find satisfaction in existence. They're usually so unsatisfied with existence that they're even so useless that they can't kill themselves as a way not to be a burden on people or society. They're kind of like the virus of society. They cling to existence and to breathe.
Nice. So I wasn't necessarily expecting this, and she's already suggesting that people kill themselves. That's like a speedrun for being a terrible person on the internet. I don't know what to say about this. Pre-watched but not expecting this, okay, but yeah, I know. I'm transcribing my reaction from when I saw this the first time around, okay? This is actually what went through my mind. Like, holy shit, she's actually advocating for genociding slash suiciding everyone who falls out on the bottom of her hierarchy. To keep in mind, in the max discussion, she pretends like the levels aren't a ranking hierarchy and the numbers are just names, which is really dishonest. Spoilers. But yeah, she already does this in this video. Actually, she does some. There is a short like disclaimer at some point of saying, yeah, you those aren't supposed to be like rankings. This isn't supposed to be a hierarchy, and that's super dishonest. If this wasn't a hierarchy, you wouldn't be describing them with numbers. You wouldn't be describing them as an evolution, as a path. What I noticed is most cult and New Age people try to make you believe you all have a ton of problems. It's usually all negative reinforcement. That is true. That is a good call as well. What this kind of rhetoric does, and where it is really powerful in acquiring new people to follow you, is that kind of like how scam emails, they put in mistakes in the scam emails on purpose, because they don't want smart people to respond to the scam email, because it'll be a waste of time. Smart people are going to be critical of the email, and at some point they're going to notice, oh, it's a fake website, etc., etc., so they're not going to send the money over. They put plenty of mistakes on purpose to filter out the people who are aware of how online life works, who are aware of scams, and thanks to that, the people who actually respond to them are the people who are vulnerable. And that is the key word, vulnerable. If you listen to this and what she says resonates with you, you probably have vulnerabilities, and there are things that you're unhappy with in your life. And that is where it gets tricky. She is going to offer you a solution to the problems in your life. And that's how they get you. To be fair, though, once again, we don't yet know if this is a cult or not, though. Honestly, a bunch of people are so worthless that they should kill themselves is really, really, really fucking bad. Honestly, self-help people kind of do this too. Yeah, there's a whole Teal Swan thing. She also encourages folks to kill themselves. Yeah, she has some very, very troubling rhetoric around suicide as well. And we're finding that again with Brittany Simon.
Breathing our oxygen, but will in no way, shape, or form, no matter how much help they get better. We all know these people. They exist in our lives. Some suffer from mental illness, some don't, but they come in all shapes, sizes, ages, races, backgrounds. So remember, all of the levels, all humans fall into some category. So unsatisfied fools are personally people I never fuck with. I used to try to save them, interact with them, give them resources, but they drain. They drain, they're emotional vampires, they're all of the things we've talked about a lot in this channel.
Also, a very, very pernicious effect of how she's describing those people is that you can also, at some point, we don't yet know if this is if it's instrumentalized in that way, but you can also turn this kind of rhetoric to isolate yourself. The emotional vampire line particularly I find striking, because what happens if you start listening to her, you sign up to the Patreon, you have like once a week you spend an hour talking to her. What happens if at that point she starts explaining to you, you like complain about your parents, and she starts explaining to you, oh, your parents, I think they're level 1s, the way you're describing them. They're emotional vampires. You need to cut them out of your life. This is a very, very... feels like a setup for a slippery slope into isolation, which Where was it again? It was somewhere in here. Oh yeah, members are encouraged or required to live and or socialize only with other group members. Or rather, to give up, and also give up personal goals and activities that would cut ties with family and friends. That's the one I was looking for. Cutting ties with families and friends. That is a huge red flag if this is something she does. We haven't seen her doing that, so it's just an assumption on my part, but it could potentially be used that way. That being said, if she doesn't do that, then that's fine. That's good. Like, anytime a group does want you to cut ties with family and friends indiscriminately, that's extremely dangerous. If she doesn't do that, then that actually would be a good sign for her not running a culty type thing. I just wanted to bring up the rhetoric here of how she describes level 1s could very easily be turned into that.
Channel, but I'm giving them a name. Level 1s, unsatisfied fools. Level 2s, satisfied fools. Now, if you are a satisfied fool, congratulations, you're probably gonna live a pretty good life. The reason I say this is because most people are level 2s. Level 2s are normal, everyday people. They're people who, they go through life wanting to do the basic things that make people happy. Food, shelter, water, family. They're people who are atheistic or in religions. They're people who believe in science. Or
apparently being satisfied with your life just means you're dancing all the time. Which that could check out.
People who don't. They're people who are Democrats or Republicans. They're all kinds of people, but they live a life that is premised on the basics being met. And the reason I say this is because there are a lot of people who exist in the world as level 2s, but they think they're awake. You might know the term woke. But as you examine the levels, I think it's pretty clear that even woke people aren't as woke as they think, because there's a step above that. But before we jump into 3, 4, and 5, we need to talk about the actual subcategories of level 2. Level 2 has subcategories, A, B, and C. So if you're functioning level 2, but you fall into the C category, you're usually people who do pretty good.
How do you feel? I know do dance checks out. Woke is just a dog whistle match. Cringe in Black history of the word woke. Yeah, we could we could go into that, but we're not going to. I'm focusing on the culty aspect. Yesterday I watched a bit of Rhizome. If you're not familiar with him, he was doing like a more philosophical breakdown of this stuff, which was interesting. I wanted more to do the like culty stuff. I have like my own bit of philosophical comment on what she talks about. I'll do at the end, but yeah. She's Middle Eastern. Does she get to say woke? I think everyone gets to use that word, honestly. The inclusion of the level 1, I think Panart's mention about the Black history of the word woke was more about how she like dismisses its meaning. The inclusion of the level 1 is very interesting to me. It reminds me of a polling strategy, which is to include a crazy option to absorb all the crazies. In a way, she may be setting it up so anyone who buys into her story believes they are not the worst level because they meet a necessary precondition for level 2. It gives a ladder to climb. Yeah. Yeah, that's a fair remark.
In life, but can't quite get where you need to go to feel completely comfortable every day in your own skin. But you're usually good people, or sometimes bad people, but you don't mean that. You're just kind of going with the script that was given to you. You're basically living in the Truman Show, but your existence is based off of where you're born. So it's not necessarily the Truman Show. It could just be your existence. And then you accept the reality you're given. Level 2s, but subcategory B, are people who are a little bit more high functioning. They're people who examine the world almost like a game of Monopoly and do pretty well in it. They're people who maintain jobs, families, structures. They're people who are maybe local politicians, school teachers, people of power, but not people of, disgusting amounts of power. They're people who are really, really important to society. They make the world.
The way she's describing them kind of feels like it plays into what you're saying, Nusanov. It feels like it kind of plays in what you're saying, in the sense that the way she's describing level 2s means that she is taking in basically like everyone. Not everyone, but most people are going to be able to identify either with what she's saying now for level 2, or, spoiler alert, level 4 later on. which I believe is also going to be like a big bait. But like, if you are feeling what she's describing, then yeah, like most people are going to some extent identify with what she's describing right here. Is the highest level QAnon flat earther vibe? You will see. Tell me, do you take video recommendations? In general, yes, but not right now. I'm doing a planned segment.
Go round. There are people who are kind or not so kind, but they're people who really help society move forward in a very significant way. And I do not in any way mean this as a bad thing to be a level 2. I really need this to be clear, because I know the human brain, it will want to be the next thing, because evolutionary...
They're kind, they're also not so kind. Yeah, I forgot to specify, like, even that, the fact that she says they're kind, but also sometimes not, it feels like it's there to help you identify with them, because you're like, oh yeah, I'm kind. And then she's like, oh, and also not, they could be not kind, because otherwise it would be like weird to say that everyone who's useful in society is automatically kind. That would be like a pretty clear falsehood. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it.
Really speaking, we want to search, we want to create, we want to be better. But the thing is that a lot of people are fine in their station, and they need to be in their station to make the world go round. All levels are needed for the world to be what it is. And because I believe in free will, I don't believe in forcing people to be anything other than what they are naturally. Except, caveat, I would argue that level 1s are so useless that they're dismissed for my consideration when I'm considering the functionality of society. And if level 1s all died, the world would function probably better, because they tend...
I didn't even need to bring it up. She fucking says it herself. Like, what's there to unmask if she goes mask off? This is horrible.
To be the reason society gets the most fucked up, but not completely the reason society is fucked up. Because if you're a level 2, but a subcategory A, you're a high functioning level 2. You are a person who is your president, your politicians, your governors, your world leaders, people who want to control the masses. Power is greed. Power is dangerous. Every great philosopher, every great teacher, every wise person in the world has never sought power, because power corrupts. Why else would anyone ever want to be in Trump's position? Why? Why would you ever want to be a world leader? What does it ever benefit you? And it's kind of amazing to me that people who experience sort of like a feeling of knowing are also the same people who spend their whole life on Twitter yelling into the void to a president who's definitely not paying attention. And
okay. Currently sounds like any other cult, like the con is just a copy from other places. So for now, yeah. Especially with what she just said, she's like talking about power corrupts. Talking about power corrupts is, to me, a pretty clear whistle. I don't want to say dog whistle, because it's not inherently like a bad thing to state. It's just a very clear whistle to the new agey, to like the new agey vibes people. They will usually, it's usually in those perspectives on the world that are like more new agey, more spiritual. Material power is seen as inherently evil, and she's basically just playing into that with what she's saying that anyone who seeks power is automatically doing harm to the world, basically. So that stuff will resonate with a lot of people, that kind of rhetoric. That's like a common Reddit comment. Yeah, this is like a very popular and populist sort of perspective on what power means in society. So helping others is bad if it doesn't benefit you. I mean, there's quite a few. I think I see how you get there from what she said, Scoopsuru, but there's like quite a few steps to get there. Right? Because like saying, basically you're saying that if she looks like she dropped 3 tabs of acid in the festival and discovered she was a narcissist all along or something. Oh god. That resonates with a lot of people, yeah, but she could just be like a lot of those Reddit people who legit believe it? Yeah, absolutely. She could. I mean, the whole... Honestly, not as a cult, but just like as someone who's spreading terrible ideas, the whole level one and level ones should kill themselves and their spiritual, like emotional, sorry, vampires thing. That's enough to like really, really dislike her and criticize her, I think. But it's not enough to say that she's running a cult. She could just legit be like just a normal bad person. Or rather, a normal person saying some really, really bad stuff, more specifically. So let's finish listening to her system. Attack the arguments, fellas. No need to say she's funny looking. Yeah, that is true. I'm on the edge of my seat waiting for the they're so useless they can't even kill themselves. It's only humane to help them. I have that one I haven't pre-watched, but she actually has a video on that topic. I'm scared of it.
That's the thing, is that for me is such a waste of an existence, but for those people is their existence. For some people, their whole existence is that bubble. And honestly, like, I don't live there. I've moved out of that bubble as I grew, and I found no peace or joy in it. And I don't think you could argue that you're happy. If you...
Okay, just a real aside, she used the word grow. Going back to what Nep brought up earlier, that she recuses the fact that this is a hierarchy. It is a hierarchy. When you use words like grow, when you use levels that are numbered, etc., you are establishing a hierarchy. You are saying that she is literally saying right now that she outgrew caring about politics. That's actually the meaning of what she's saying. Which Rhizome yesterday appropriately pointed out that she's basically just arguing for absurdism. That the world is absurd, and so she's gone past the material randomness of the world in a way.
You want peace, enjoy, like inner peace. Every great philosopher who's ever existed has said the same universal message. Become not of the world, humble yourself, know the world, know yourself. And if you're living on Twitter, if you're living in politics, if you're living for power, if you're living for money, living for drinking, living for sex, you're living for the materialism of the world that only exists in this time. These things...
So, at least she's honest. Everyone has been saying this for millennia. From Buddhism to Christianity to Judaism to Islam to pretty much every single religion and cult out there, there's always... Almost always, I'm sure there's some exceptions somewhere. I don't know all the religious and spiritual teachings of the world, but 99.9% of the time, there is this idea that if you are of the world, you are being corrupted by the world. And that is why people, once they progress within their spirituality, generally there's some form, for example, of monastic life, where you isolate yourself from the world, because there's generally this idea that you cannot access the truth, the spiritual truths that you're looking for, while also struggling with your daily material life. But she's honest. She started the sentence with saying, as many philosophers, whatever, have said before. Like, others have been saying this. Yeah, honestly, where are the cult leaders that encourage social media use? Yeah. I've unfortunately met too many people like this. Sad to see them have a platform. They're usually isolated because nobody wants to be around them and listen to their crap. Most often their personality is just impossible to stand. Narcissists, self-righteous vibes are hard to stomach. If you want to be at this type of stuff, you have to show at least a tiny bit of humility. I do try not to go down the path of psychoanalyzing someone from a YouTube video. But I totally get why you feel like she gives off those vibes, 100%. Like, what she said already has been really heinous and disgusting. I mean, not exactly, not in the spirit of many cultures. Anyways, every culture has the anti of this view, which can just as much be the dominant religious spirit. I don't know what you're talking about necessarily. It's fairly easy to see the self-righteous hater energy. Yeah. The self-righteousness and the hate obviously transpired when you call for people's suicide or disappearance from the world and establish hierarchies at which you're at the top of. You have both hate and self-righteousness. I 100% agree with that. I'm not sure what you're talking about, Yo-Yo Man. I don't know. To me, when I say that this appears in other religions, like any religion that has like a monastic system, for example, that's why I cited that. Buddhism, Christianity. I'm not that familiar with Islam. If they have a monastic system, maybe they're an exception. Judaism, I guess I assumed it's the same, but I'm not that sure. Like, generally, there is this idea that if you can practice a religion while being a lay person, while being part of the world of society. But if you want to take that next step, that extra step, you have to almost always isolate yourself in some way. Romans and the importance of politics. No, because I was talking about religion, Yo-Yo Man. That's why I got confused. Oh, Judaism and the divine community in the world, and proud of it. Okay, I wasn't aware about Judaism then. Then maybe that's a good exception. That's interesting. I'll have to look into it. Like even rabbis, I guess rabbis actually do like continue living in society. They don't isolate themselves that much. So yeah. Do you know her background? Does she tell how she got to that level system? She talks a little bit about it at some point. I'm fine with calling most people fools if you include yourself, but calling most people fools but saying you are not one yourself is still cringe. That is true. That is a good litmus test.
Are only important now, but didn't even exist 200 years ago. Except they manifested themselves differently in different ways. Like world leaders have always existed, but our problems seem so important to us because we exist during this time.
This is just philosophically dumb. This is a tautology. Our problems are important to us because they exist in our time. That is a meaningless statement, because if they didn't exist in our time, then they wouldn't be important to us. It's an actual tautology. This is just saying stuff to say stuff. That's dumb.
And again, I don't think people who are number twos, whether they're A, B, or C, need to not be number twos. Because the irony of it is that most people who get to level 4 wish they could be level 2s again. Because there's a naivety, a simplicity to being a level 2. It's an existence where the biggest issue in your life is who is president. Or the biggest issue in your life is whether or not babies are being aborted, or whether or not people are starving in the streets. And those are big issues, but they're not honestly the biggest issues. They just seem like it because in your bubble they are, which again, we need people to care about those things to keep the world moving. So it's not a criticism of being a level 2. And what level 2s will often do is they'll get upset and want to be a level 4 or 5. But in order to do those things, you have to leave your bubbles. So as an example, I actually shared this philosophy.
So what she's done here, she's, in a less heinous way as she did with the level 1s, she has set up a way of basically dismissing the concerns of people who are, who you can describe as level 2s, right? So if you've climbed her hierarchy, you're like a level 4 or a level 5. Now that she's said this, you can be like, oh yeah, you care about all those things that I know what are the actual important things in life. I have access to those real important issues, and you're still stuck in the quagmire of life. And this doesn't have the hatred of the level 1 rhetoric, but this still has like a condescension and self-righteousness to it, which will allow you to dismiss basically what level 2s have to say about you. Here comes the kind but not so kind take. I will see.
Philosophy with a religious person. And they said, well, if you think you're so right, then tell me the answers. And I said, well, the truth cannot be taught. Otherwise, I would just make a YouTube video and everyone would understand me. And here I am trying it, but it's not going to work, and that's okay. But it needs to be discovered. Truth.
Once again, not everyone's going to understand me. If you do understand her, this appeals to something. It's something I've started denouncing when we get like pro-Russians in chat, or generally conspiracy theorists. Conspiracy theorists and people, and some of the people, I don't think that's a universal profile, but some of the people who get sucked into cults share something. They share the need to feel exceptional. They share the need to feel like they have some special insight into the world that normies don't have. And she's once again appealing to that with what she just said, which is a very dangerous sentiment because we all want to be special.
Needs to be discovered. And I said, in order to find the truth, you have to leave your bubble. But because this person is religious, they're not allowed to do anything against their religion that would upset God, and therefore will never leave their bubble in order to find truth. Religion is a structure created to bring comfort, consistency, and community. These are the things humans need to live. They need structure, community, and consistency. And the science has showed you that religion actually offers you those things. Religious people live longer, they're happier overall. And usually religious people use this as a haha, see, God is real. But all that tells me is religion works. From a scientific perspective, it allows you an opportunity to examine your life in a meaningful way. As I went on talking with these religious people, they were so excited to talk to me about this, and we had a lot of fun discussing it. But it also became increasingly clear
My mom says I'm special.
Would never understand what I was talking about.
You are.
Because the way that you get into level 3 is you have a moment in your life. Some people call it wokeness, but I would argue that wokeness actually exists in the level 2s. Level 3s are a little bit above that. They're kind of like that moment in the Matrix where you get an opportunity to think of the world as one way or another. That metaphor definitely exists, but if you take it to a certain place, it just puts you back in level 2. So level 3 are the people who examine the world and see the kind of Truman Show-esque part of existence. But to go to a level 4 is darkness. There's no proof of anything safe there. So they hesitate, often driving themselves.
This is also a common thing in if you're familiar with the rhetoric in cults, and this does appear sometimes in religion, but religion tends, modern religion at least, tends to tame it down because this is dangerous thinking. It's this idea that you're going to have to go on this arduous path with danger, with suffering. Going back to like earlier when she talked about like some people who've heard this went insane or whatever. And going down this path, having that enlightenment, that level 3 moment, makes you special. So like this is a combination of different things. You're if you're buying into this, you're special. If you're going down that darkness, that I guess we'll hear more about what darkness is. You're actually going through a healthy process. So the Matrix and Truman Show are the only philosophy she's referred to. I wonder if she's even read any philosophy or religious text, or if this is just a cute taxonomy of hate. We could give her the benefit of the doubt, and that she's making it accessible to people who haven't read philosophy. If she, like, I'll do a little spoiler. The way I understand, like, Rhizome talked about absurdism. I don't know that much about absurdism as an actual philosophical position, though what I know about it does make sense concerning what she describes. How I understood her stuff is basically she just describes towards the end. She, like, level 4 and level 5, she describes nihilism and Nietzschean post-nihilism. So, like, level 4 is nihilism, and level 5 is the Übermensch. Is you've transcended nihilism, and you're now fully at peace and accessing your will to power. She doesn't use those terms, obviously. She doesn't actually do any Nietzsche references, but that's my interpretation of if we want to go philosophical on it. Those types of videos don't lend well to Hegel quotes. It's the sort of Marcus Aurelius just bought a book, hey, chair, yeah. But you'll see, make your own opinion.
Into madness, not choosing. You have to choose. I actually had experiences where level 3s that I knew did go insane because they couldn't handle having to make that choice. So she does watch good anime. I have to grant that. In sort of an unhealthy way, which is interesting, versus a peaceful way. And then you could be a level 3 that goes on to a level 4. That's all a level 3 is. It's a stage, it's a bridge level. There's nothing more to it. You either have to choose level 2 or level 4. Once you've made the decision to go to level 4, you can never again be a level 2. Level 4s are people who examine the world, understand the hierarchies, understand exactly what it means to be a part of subgroup. It acknowledges that we're animals on a planet. It acknowledges...
Keep in mind, and she's never going to elaborate on this in this video, she keeps talking about seeing life for what it is, understanding, accessing the truth of reality, and knowing what are the real issues. She never describes what they actually are. She never does this in the video. And that is also something that's kind of suspicious. If you actually have a strong opinion on what is important in life and what matters, you should be putting it in there. And normally, a normal person would put it in there. I do actually find it very suspicious that she doesn't put it in there, because the second you start hiding and gatekeeping the truth that you're supposed to help people access, there's already a cognitive dissonance. Are you actually trying to help people access truth, or are you trying to have them jump through your hoops in order to bait them into doing what you want them to do? I feel like hiding the truth is more the latter than the former. Does she ever mention positive energy, love, altruism, stuff like that? Or is it all based on negativity and being self-serving? Well, the thing is, until now she's said very negative things, and she never elaborates on what the truth is. So I understand, yeah, you're left only with the negativity and the self-servience.
Is that there is no God. It just acknowledges the most real reality of existence, but it has no inner joy. When I was level 4, I struggled. It was really hard. I did not like it. I know that level 4 was the hardest for me. Level 4 was this moment, this opportunity in my life where I examined life in what I thought was the realest way to examine it. I popped reality bubbles. I really researched and decided to go outside of my comfort zone, and I found that I could recreate that feeling of God in church. You know that feeling you get when you're a kid and you're in church and the Holy Spirit feels like it's inside you and it makes you cry and you're like, holy shit, God is real? I can recreate that through drugs, sex, social interactions, and honestly just sitting in my room in this chair. I can recreate.
I don't really understand this. I don't really understand the rant on religious experiences. That, like, you can recreate exaltation with other experiences. I don't really understand what it has to do with the rest of her stuff. If someone understood that, please explain to me. I speedran 7 levels in 30 minutes yesterday. She's bottom of the leaderboard. Am I psychic? Can I foresee the future? This level 2-4 dichotomy is sad to me because it ignores the reality that everyone has an outward personality that may just not find social utility in seeming introspective. Maybe on some level, but I think the idea is also that when you're listening to this kind of stuff, it's supposed to try to resonate with your self-image. So if outwardly you look like a level 2, God, I hate using her taxonomy, but whatever. Let's play the game. If outwardly you're a level 2, but inwardly you feel nihilistic, like she's described, then you're going to listen to this and you're going to identify as a level 4. Which, going back to what I was talking about earlier as well, about what it takes to suck someone into your beliefs. I want to say cult, because I'm still reserving judgment on that specifically. What it takes to suck someone into your indoctrination or into your beliefs. And once again, what I talked about earlier was vulnerability. And what she's describing here are vulnerable people. She's describing knowledge without joy. She's describing people who feel like they have some understanding of the world and that it has left them unhappy, it has left them wanting. And by claiming that there is another level that she has access to, that she can teach you how to access eventually, she is basically telling you, I have the key to your unhappiness. Yeah, the reason I say she's uneducated is because there are so many variables and influences people deal with that she conveniently leaves out, because it would topple her bullshit. Yeah. Mind you could explain this away by just saying she's referencing the true mental states. I don't know. But she doesn't say what they are. I do stand by that criticism. The levels should have mapped onto the uncountably infinite subset of real numbers on the open interval 0, 1. But yeah, what Chinchilla says, by design, she's the arbiter of the levels. Which, once again, all this means is, for now, she's just being a shitty influencer. The combination of this and the Patreon are definitely culty-ish for now. But, and this is a big but, I still have trouble distinguishing what, because like the Patreon, it didn't have any spaces left on it. I'm not clear that she actually is trying to grow her stuff. But I don't know. We need to see more. Whether or not she's uneducated, she's like a Nigerian prince with typos. Falling for such videos nowadays is so strange to me. This is definitely like way lower production level compared to Teal Swan. So like I said, I want to do another pass on Teal Swan's content. And you'll see when we go over Teal Swan's stuff, it's way more potent, I would say, than this. It's a better production quality. There's an enormous amount of work put in the visuals, in the sound, in the rhetoric, etc., that probably make her like more dangerous. And Teal Swan actually is running a cult. Like that one is an easy call for me, at least personally. It's just I'm trying to figure out, and this is what I want to do with today's session. I'm trying to figure out, is she an incompetent cult leader, like an incompetent aspiring cult leader, or is she just like a shitty influencer? I'm trying. There is some nuance between the two, and I guess it's in the intention maybe, but also the execution, and I'm trying to ascertain that. But both, yeah, or both actually. That is a valid answer as well.
It. And when you start to examine your life in that kind of a capacity, you need to come to a place where you're peaceful about it, because otherwise you end up in this place where you figure like, what's the fucking point, dude? There's no joy. All I know is the answers with none of the joy. Level 4 is hard. And
okay, well, once again, to many people, I feel like, as someone who has been depressed for long parts of my life, what she describes here, many depressed people will identify with this. So as much as like the way the level 1s were described was othering. It was, they are the bad people in your life, which was why I pointed out to how cults seek to cut you off from other people. This is described in, lets you frame your suffering in like growth type perspective, which will make you more amenable to, you know, going down her rabbit hole. I disagree with level 1s being the bad people in your life. Well, the problem is she literally described them as emotional vampires. She described them as the people who you shouldn't even help because they'll take your help and will not do anything with it. They'll just suck your energy away. I'm almost quoting her verbatim. That is why I'm paraphrasing her as saying that I infer from what she says. Okay, it's more an inference. It's not a paraphrasing. I infer from what she says that she believes that level 1s are going to be the bad people in your life. But I agree she doesn't do it explicitly. That it's my inference, my interpretation. She doesn't explicitly state that. She does actually, kind of, when she talks about emotional vampires and having those people in your life and cutting them out, or like not even trying to help them, rather, is what she said. She does actually suggest cutting them out of your life with how she talks about it. So yeah, actually, yeah, I stand by it. This is aimed at teenage angst, I think. So at a certain level, yeah. Sure. Yeah, but she framed them as the people who absolutely don't want to succeed, even though they have the option. Like, I understand them to be struggling and useless and not wanting to get out of it. It's extremely unlikely that the characterization can be applied to random bad people in your life. I don't know. I've seen this dynamic IRL in like friend groups, for example, where different people will, for example, progress in different ways in their lives. They'll study, get diplomas, they'll get jobs, they'll form families, all sorts of different milestones for progression in society and in life. And other people won't be hitting those landmarks, which doesn't mean that they aren't progressing in their lives or going on their own journey of life. But if they aren't, if they actually are stagnating, if they actually are being depressed and struggling with dealing with their lives, etc., there often is in like long-standing friend groups, there often can be that dynamic, or at least I've seen that dynamic. This is purely anecdotal, so I don't know if often is the right word, but there can be that dynamic where people get tired of hearing the same complaints. When it's year after year, and you've given advice and seeing that the advice is not used, at some point, and I've seen this ruin friendships, I've seen this ruin relationships, at some point, the people around you will get tired of it. There is a limit to how much energy you can put into helping someone. And I feel like that's perhaps a bit, at least that's how it resonates with me. I feel like that's what she's talking about. Obviously, I'm projecting my own experiences onto it. And maybe that is also an important part of how she phrases things. I criticize the fact that she doesn't actually describe what is truth to her. The strength in not being precise, the strength in being vague when it comes to telling people how who their identities and how they should live their lives, is that the more vague you are, the more they'll just project their own lives and experiences onto it, and it'll resonate with them, even though you didn't have the intelligence to put in hooks for their own experiences. They'll just project their experiences onto what you're saying, as long as it's vague enough. That's how like astrology works, for example. It's vague enough for you to project anything onto it. So, but that is also kind of culty. Yeah, and that's more for a characterization of level 1 stuff, but just that you can't call every bad person in your life a level 1. Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, not all bad people that you encounter will be level 1s. It's just that the level 1s you encounter, the way she described them, will all be bad influences on your life. But sorry if that wasn't clear. But you're right if that wasn't clear. It's like the way she describes it is in that direction. All level 1s will be bad in your life, but not all bad in your life will be from level 1s. That's why morals are bad, kids. Don't talk about them. Online cults are basically another way of saying I like to generalize. I went to private school most probably, and I don't like online cults, not at all. I project her actual key to happiness is being a brat to her parents and reaching out. I don't know anything about her personal life.
Keep in mind, I know a lot of level 3s who decided to be level 2 and they know it and they love it. They're like, I could have been a 4, but fuck it, I'm gonna be a 2 because they're happiest. And the way they said it was, I was gonna be a level 4, but then I can't complain about petty shit, so I'm gonna be a level 2 so I can still complain about petty shit. And that was a really wise decision. That was them being cognizant that they still wanted to complain about petty shit, because most of the things that we complain about are petty. But again, when you're in the bubble, it feels very important.
Like, this is the kind of stuff where she's going to cite as being like, it's not a hierarchy. I respect people who go back to level 2, blah, 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 but she still calls it petty. She's still dismissing the concerns that she describes as level 2. Oh, so now we ranked level 1 to 3. Spoiler, it's up to level 5.
So when you're level 4, you're sort of examining all these like level 2s and level 1s, and it gets annoying and frustrating, and you kind of start to almost resent your own existence. So you want to make the conscientious choice to end your life. Funny enough, level...
So, okay, now we jumped back to suicide, which I guess we'll have to dive into. Maybe we have a clue to the origin of why she's so hateful. She sees herself as having gone through all those steps, and she has felt herself, what she's just described, she felt resentful of other people for not being as enlightened as her. So, basics with flavor, yeah. I remember watching tarot card draw videos with a friend. It was amazing to see how vague the drawers were on everything, until even contradicting themselves. I actually really enjoy that kind of content. I do think there's a difference between like entertainment as spirituality. There's a difference between entertainment as spirituality and normal, like wholesome spirituality, which can also be entertaining, and what we're seeing here. Those are three different things. Sometimes they can overlap, but yeah. I think the key to happiness is kidnapping a happy person and vampirizing their emotions. That sounds like level 1 talk. Anyways, in general, just not an empath at all, so not really dangerous. She does have some crazy level of following. I mean, crazy is perhaps an over-exaggeration. 79.5k subscribers. Her Patreon is full, so she does have people contributing like full-on salary. Her OnlyFans has like a certain number of followers. I'm actually level square root of -1. Nice. Imaginary levels. I like that.
Level 2s can commit suicide, meaning killing themselves out of despair. Level 4s cannot. Level 4s will never again feel despair in the way that level 2s do, and they commit suicide, which is not of their own control. Level 4s, though, can commit chosen death, which is a conscientious choice to kill yourself, to end your existence, because you acknowledge that this is the world. And you can or cannot make that decision.
So this is why I say, for the way she... skipping a bunch of like useless talking, level 4 to her is just nihilism. It's the world is useless. I'm just worm food, and she's literally just describing nihilism. I don't get the point of all this stuff around it. So a bunch of extremers went to Korea and got their hands read, and because they are all young, the fortune tellers go like, you'll become rich in the future. Against oh yeah, and they were multimillionaires, and they were telling them you haven't found the right job yet. Nice.
I was going to make that decision. I discussed it with friends of mine, and I had said, look, I think like I've made a pretty good argument for making this decision. And then my friend, who's a level 5, said to me, I see myself in you. You're about a decade behind from me, maybe less. And I looked at him and I said, you seem pretty happy and joyful every day, even though you know all of this. Okay, I'll stick around. And I did, and I'm happy I did, because I became a level 5. And again, your goal is not to become a level 5.
And there we go.
Because then you'll never be a level 2. And a level 5 is alienating and lonely, but not lonely in the way a level 2 feels loneliness.
So this is why I said earlier, she does put in some lip service to the idea, oh, this is not a hierarchy. You actually should want to be a level 2. Even though she just spent pretty much 10 minutes telling us how the level 4 has actual access to the truth. The level 4 and the level 5 has actually grown out of things. You level 2s don't understand my level 5 burden. Exactly. This is really disingenuous from her, claiming that just because she says you can be happy as a level 2 in this really condescending and like putting you down way is not acknowledging that there are like different paths to happiness in life. That is just being condescending and self-righteous. So there we go. She's picking up this bullshit from another psycho narcissist. Oh yeah, that's something. It's good you picked up on that. Yeah, it is interesting that she picked up on this from someone else in her life. You just don't understand her name. You're just a level 1 unsatisfied fool. Yep.
A level 5 is comfortable with being alone because they know they can't go back, so they make peace.
Damn, they're comfortable with being alone. Sorry, I need to play it. Oh shit, I should have prepared it. I completely forgot about this line. They're comfortable with being alone.
If I need to step in and be an alpha, I'm more than capable of doing so. Introversion is my strength.
Gotta get that.
My introspective nature allows me to harness deep reserves of power and capabilities.
Gotta get that grind set. Honestly, Force and Coomer. This is what I listen to when I go to bed. Good. It's obvious that she hasn't researched enough to come up with this on her own, whereas Teal has obviously studied how to be a manipulative demon. She's definitely far less sophisticated than Teal Swan, yeah. Did you see this? Yeah, I know what you just linked me.
Of them are among unvaccinated. If you look at the new cases in the US, 99% of them are among unvaccinated people. I can't wait for the Sigma variant. Guys, I'm not joking and I'm not exaggerating. Truly and literally, laying in bed one night, Destiny was like, I'm gonna put on the Sigma affirmations YouTube video as we fall asleep, okay? He made me lay in bed with him while we listened to the Sigma affirmations YouTube video.
There you go.
With everything around them. The reason I can be happy every day in the way that I am.
Oh, also, going back to the cult talking points. Remember what she said? She said loneliness. She said isolation. She said that if you reach level 5, you will be isolated and you will feel lonely.
Intelligence can be used like an octopus to suffocate and pull apart my enemy's arguments.
Thank you for joining the name cult, Infamous Spaceship Captain. Welcome to the cult. We are going back into justifying why you might have to cut off ties from your friends and family. Now, she hasn't called for cutting off ties from your friend and family. Please, like, don't misinterpret what I'm saying. I'm just calling out the fact that this rhetoric can play into that stuff, but we don't know if she actually does that. Honestly, I'd be very curious. For example, if I like had the money to throw at it, I'd be very curious, and if she had like still slots available on her Discord, because people do that. People buy into cults just to investigate their actual teachings, and that's perhaps at some point what we would need to do to ascertain what the fuck we're dealing with here. Because if you buy consultations with her and access to her Discord, oh God, do not give her money. I don't plan on. But but there is use to that. There are people who investigate cults in that way. They buy into it moderately. You know, they don't throw their lives away, but they buy into it. They're going on a retreat, buying some of the content of the cult, so they can analyze it. Because it is a lot of the more egregious stuff you can only get to when you're inside. And that is where it becomes really clear what you're dealing with, whether you're actually dealing with a cult. If there are calls to isolation, if there are oh, shit.
Let's have some fun.
Mondly cult Faye.
Thank you very much for your cult contribution, Magic Turtle. You just went up from level 2 to level 3. But what I mean is like, I would be very curious to see if the people who subscribe to her stuff, when they are in those calls, if she starts saying stuff like, "Oh yeah, it sounds like your younger brother, they are level 1 or level 2, and like you shouldn't listen to them." If that kind of rhetoric is the stuff that's being exchanged there, then that's really, really, really dangerous. That's what I'm curious about. Why I'm talking about like the need to really make a judgment call, and why the people who investigate those things do that. They do that. They buy the content of the cult. They buy sessions. They go on a retreat with Teal Swan in order to see what is the reality behind the like veneer and facade. You level 2s just don't get it. I don't see a famous book when prophecy fails was the first book with such a strategy of infiltration. Fun story. I wasn't aware of that. That sounds interesting. I don't really see how kind people would join her pseudo cult thingy. She's sucking in angsty hater young people, not anyone that's trying to be a better person. Yeah, this is very particular. Usually New Age cults are very, very about self-improvement and will refer to ideas of from like Eastern philosophy, of like getting to a better energy level, being more compassionate, etc., etc. Even though the execution will be damaging to people, often there will be positive rhetoric mixed in there. We haven't seen any of that in here, actually, which is both very worrying and perhaps a bit of a good thing because it makes it less appealing to people. Self-improvement comes historically from prosperity gospel, I guess. Very American phenomenon. I'm not aware of that.
Is because all of this makes sense to me. 2020, Trump, people freaking out over COVID, all of these things are predictable and make sense because human beings are predictable. History cannot repeat itself. It is not a living thing. Humans repeat history. The answers to the universe already exist, but how many people want to examine them and conscientiously choose them? Very limited.
Once again, elitism. You want to be. She's making you want to be part of a special group, even though she denies that she wants them. She's making you want it. She is making you want to be part of a special group. She never refers to what the truth is, only vague allusions to it, so that the truth can be anything you want. The stills are the best. Yeah, this is a pretty good one. So once again, we're crossing off the same important culty talking points that we've been talking about from the since the start of the video.
I think that's fine. I think it is so fine that at the end of the day, I shouldn't even be making this video. But I also know it won't matter because most of the world is level 2s. So I'll get dismissed as like a crazy person, and that's comforting to me. Listen, you want to watch a video about people giving you the answers? Watch The Social Dilemma. Acknowledge that the people who created the devices that you're all obsessed with, I don't know where my fucking phone is, okay? They created a thing to literally make you think you know what you're doing and you're making cognizant choices, but you're not. And the answers can start there.
Okay, I'm gonna meme Jack Rhizome on this. Who the fuck doesn't realize that they're like in 2022? Who the fuck doesn't realize that their phones are designed to manipulate them? That the apps are designed to manipulate them? That like psychologists are paid inordinate amounts of money to adapt the functioning of the apps and everything to your behavior? This is not like, and this is another one of those things that are a bit of a red flag to me. This is an obvious truth. Anyone with like almost any level of critical thinking, and even without critical thinking, will have heard about this. And why is she saying that then? Because you're listening to this and you're like, oh shit, I'm part of the smart people. I already know this. I'm already on the path to self-enlightenment. I'm already on the path to being a level 4. I'm gonna be a level 5 soon. It's just an appeal to big brain. I know this, I too am smart. Exactly, yeah. Or she's just dumb and thinks it's a deep insight. Yeah, it's a bit, like, we can still go Poe's law on this. So for those who aren't familiar with it, Poe's law is an adage of internet culture stating that without a clear indicator of the author's intent, every parody of extreme views can be mistaken by some readers for a sincere expression of the views being parodied. So in this case, we're not hesitating on whether it's a parody or authentic. We're hesitating on whether she's just really dumb and hateful, or also malicious and manipulative. I have to say, she is monetizing directly what she's talking about, which tends to point towards the manipulation and maliciousness. If she was doing this without monetization, or like just normal monetization of a YouTube channel, without the Patreon special call self-help stuff, I think we could easily dismiss the cultiness of it, or at least largely dismiss it. The fact that she is running a Patreon is does color her, whatever her intentions may be, in my opinion.
You want to know how I got here? Start there, and that's a new documentary. And then go and read the classics. Philosophers who have existed in our academia for years exist for a reason. When people started deciding old white men or people who have come before us didn't have the answers, was the moment you started to forget.
Once again, I'm sorry. Like I read some Plato, and it's cool. Like reading Plato is really interesting, and it teaches you a bunch of stuff. But look, if you read Plato and Socrates, you are not a philosopher. Okay, like philosophy gets super hard and complex and deep, and I'm not saying this in an elitist way. It's just the reality. You need to put in a lot of work to get through some Kant, some Hegel, some more not even contemporary stuff, just some like the stuff that was inspired by the Greek philosophers. Like I quoted Nietzsche earlier, and the reason I know Nietzsche is because he's really fucking accessible. I must admit, I don't have this pretension of like, yeah, if you read Nietzsche, you're like big brained and you will have deep thoughts. Honestly, there's like Nietzsche is really good. It's really interesting, and I highly recommend you do read it. But like, this is like as far as the depth of philosophy goes, what she just described as like fucking a brain blast in reality is just the equivalent of slipping your pinky toe into the philosophy pool. Reading Hegel made me want to kill myself in a video game. I can imagine. I had that experience with I got really ambitious because I really liked my philosophy class, and I tried to read Phenomenology of Perception by Merleau-Ponty, and I made it like 20 pages in. And then I was too ashamed to admit it to my philosophy teacher, and I just sat on the book for an entire year and returned it to her at the end of the year. That's my experience with like hardcore philosophy. The synthetic manifold of a priori knowledge, yeah. Go read the classics, said by someone who I can 95% guarantee has never read The Republic. Possibly, but my point is, even if you have read The Republic, and reading The Republic is really interesting, but it's not that deep. Like the Plato's Cavern allegory is really useful. Realizing why the philosopher king government is an impossible utopia, I think, is a good exercise in critical thinking. And understanding the Socratic method in the dialogues that are written is also really good. I think like those are the three main things you can learn from reading The Republic. There are probably more. Like a scholar would probably find more things than I have found. But like it's not that deep. It's good. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just she's overblowing it. I foolishly took a class on Kant's Critique of Pure Reason. We got through like 100 pages in the whole semester. Yeah, exactly.
That they did have the answers. But it's not so clear cut. You can learn from every philosopher, and every philosopher is human and therefore flawed. And I'm not arguing.
Like when Aang talks to his past selves. I love it. Ignoring my comment, curious. Oh yeah, sorry. I'm taking. You're saying I'm taking the elitist box. You're on to me. Yes. I seriously doubt this girl has read even the sophomoric stuff. I don't know. Yeah, it's also something learned on by people who want to return to actual aristocracies. I would be the philosopher king, surely. Yeah. Well, that's why I said, like, if you're gonna read The Republic, I think it's important to like exercise your critical thinking and figure out where the flaws are in the philosopher king government, because there are flaws in it. It's a utopia, and like every single utopia design, it's based on some kind of a priori axiomatic thing that you cannot find in reality. She has watched The Truman Show. Oh, but this is funny because the like with the anime stuff earlier, this is a reference to Avatar: The Last Airbender. What's a good book to read? Give me one. So triggered. What's the last really good book I've read that I would like? I don't know. Stop derailing me.
You can learn from every philosopher, and every philosopher is human and therefore flawed. And I'm not arguing that philosophers are all level 5s. Actually, that's sort of the opposite of what I'm arguing. Example is Rand. Rand is a high-functioning level 2.
I forgot about this.
She's a person who examined human beings in a very superficial way and came to a conclusion that works for people like her, but not universally.
Ayn Rand is the philosopher king, confirmed. No, but the smartest and best people are in charge of the best system. I would, of course, be one of the leaders. Can't you see the size of my head? Yeah. No, but... Look. I'm sorry to, like, Americans take Ayn Rand seriously. Obviously, she has written stuff that is an ideology and is philosophy. Like, you can't gatekeep ideas and be like they aren't philosophy. But I'm not aware... I will be elitist on this. I'm not aware of serious philosophers in academia actually like taking her seriously as a philosopher. Marx was taken seriously as making philosophical contributions. If we want to talk about ideologies that have political ramifications, I could be wrong, but maybe it's like just an American thing, and that's why I'm not aware of it. In which case, I apologize for that. But this sounds ridiculous to me. But maybe I'm just being like a European elitist. That's entirely possible, and if that's the case, I apologize. Marx is a political philosopher. Yeah, exactly. And technically, Ayn Rand also is a political philosopher. It's just, if we're going to talk about this, she's not the one I would quote. Now I must continue watching. I see what names she says. Yeah. Ayn Rand was a much better cult leader, though.
Philosophy totally disregards human biology and evolution by disregarding the idea that we're herding animals or need other humans. So Rand is a high-functioning 2 and a philosopher you should definitely read so you can dismiss her points with knowledge. I remember I met a Randian not too long ago and I thought, man, this guy must know some shit. And then I read it and I was like, this guy knows nothing. And it was so annoying. But at the time, I was a high-functioning 2 and I thought this was the guy. Then I hit level 3, then I hit 4, and now I'm at 5. And I think we can all agree, if you've been watching me long enough, you see a change in me, this is the change in me. But
you're kind of digging yourself a hole if you start talking about political ramifications, deciding how important something is. Because surely she's influential in US politics. No, I didn't mean political ramifications as how important something is, because you're right, absolutely. Ayn Rand and libertarianism has been super influential and important in US politics. I meant more in, I meant as philosophy. I recognize her as being super important in like political science in the US especially, not so much outside the US. But I just am not aware, and I fully acknowledge that I could be super wrong about this. I'm not aware of her being influential within the academia of philosophy, which is what I said earlier. Maybe I wasn't clear about that. But you're right. This is like a dangerous. It's a bit dangerous to start gatekeeping in general, which gets me back to your message, Salad. She isn't a philosopher. She was a novelist who had some philosophical themes. So this is where I don't want to go. I want to consider philosophical tales as philosophy. When I read, for example, what's his name, The Insufferable Lightness of Being by Milan Kundera, I feel like I'm learning something philosophical. I'm learning philosophy by reading what is actually just a romance story. When I read Stanisław Lem's Solaris, I learn about philosophy. When I read Voltaire, I learn about philosophy.
Intelligence can be used like an octopus to suffocate.
The fact that it's not told in like dry academic prose doesn't mean it's not. It doesn't make you not a philosopher, or it doesn't make it not have a philosophical teaching in it, or a philosophy to it. The Stranger as well, yeah. Dostoevsky was Dostoevsky's philosopher, I think so. I haven't. I am like stuck somewhere in the Brothers Karamazov. I haven't yet finished them, but what I've read until now, yes, I can't say that authoritatively, but I would consider Dostoevsky as well, at least in the Karamazov brothers. Hey, Levelhead, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the cult. Sure, but that doesn't make the author a philosopher. At best, you could say it's a philosophical text. I'm probably splitting hairs, though. Yeah, fair enough. They are a philosopher if they do many philosophical texts. If they do just one, then they did one philosophical text. But I would prefer calling them a philosopher in the context of discussing that text, then, just to not gatekeep. But I like, yeah. Kai's first cult victim in the elitist web. Yeah. Notes from the Underground is dank. I have yet to read it, yeah. Cult, you say? Sweet. Yeah, we're diving into cults. Heidegger wrote one book, many essays. Did I miss a message above? Nope. What they call philosophy, I call literature. What they call literature, I call journalism. What they call journalism, I call gossip. What they call gossip, I call generalcy voyeurism. Tips Fedora. Nice one. Fuck Heidegger. Damn, Heidegger is not that sexy, man. I don't want to judge your taste, okay? If you want to fuck Heidegger, you know, you do you, okay? Actually, when he was younger, the mustache It's a bit of a receding hairline, but you know, who am I to complain about that? You know what? He actually has a sex appeal. I respect that, even as an older person. Nah, man. You know what? Go fuck Heidegger. He's actually got a charm to him. I approve of it. If you're talking about number of texts, how many do you need to become a philosopher then? Well, that's why I said if someone wrote a single philosophical text and I'm discussing it, I would rather call them a philosopher than start gatekeeping, is what I said earlier. All right, let's finish the video.
But guys, I am Brittany, and I love living as a level 5, but it was the hardest thing I ever did. It was over 16 years in the making, and it absolutely is not for everyone. And if you
Once again, elitism, it's not for everyone. It was the hardest thing I ever did. So if you identify as a level 4, which I think the level 4 is kind of the recruitment target for her stuff. Level 5 what? Oh shit, you missed the early part. If you haven't heard of this person, we're watching Brittany Simon's content. Brittany Simon is a content creator who has been accused of, by Max Carson, by Mr. Girl, of running allegedly a sex cult or a cult. I'm sort of familiar with cultish stuff from life experiences and also from being interested in them and reading about that stuff. I've done a segment like a year ago on Teal Swan, but I'm going to do another one, I think later this week, who is definitely a cult leader. So we are kind of like dissecting. This is her like basic video. She has this hierarchy of people. Level 1s in her book are people who are so unhappy with life and so lost in their suffering that they should just kill themselves. She like says that outright. Level 2s are normies. Level 3s are people who are at a crossroads. They have had like an enlightenment that can take them out of normiehood, but they have yet to pick whether they go into nihilism or choose to take the blue pill and go back to being normies. She actually uses the Matrix allegory. And then level 4 are nihilists. They know the truth, but are sad and unhappy about it. And level 5s are obviously her. And they're the ones who are, and that's what she's describing now, they're the ones who have wisdom and are at peace with the absurdity of the world and etc. and have access to the real truth of the world, which she never tells. She never says what is the actual truth of existence, what are the things that matter in life. She just callously throws away whatever you may care about, but like she knows what is actually important. And if you know, you know, but she's not going to tell you apparently. Many level 1s in chat. I think I gatekeep because I did philosophy at university before dropping out, but I think it's less about how many texts, but more about writing on many philosophical topics and studying writing papers. Okay.
You try to be a level 5 without true patience, you will go insane. I have seen it happen. I have literally seen it happen, and I don't want this for you. Actually, I had an ethical discussion with the level 5 in my life, and I said, hey, is it unethical for me to share this with the world? Because if I do it and more people go insane, as we've seen, then am I putting negative energy into the world in a way that is unnecessary? Because the truth is, people accept the reality that they're presented with. And I didn't, and it gave me an experience I would never take back, but it was also one that I only just barely survived. And remember, level 5s are efficient. Level 5s are not petty, though they experience real human emotion, so we mourn, we cry, we can choose to be petty, we can choose to fake live as level 2s, and we can choose to get involved and get angry over things that don't matter, even if when we get home and stare at the ceiling, we're like, ah, fuck it, that was a day. It's like going to work sometimes, being a level 5. It's like being a level 2 is like going to work. I'm gonna be a level 2 today and I'm gonna let the world think I'm mad about this thing. And at the same time, I am kind of hoping that this lands in the ears of the people that I'm trying to contact, because that's why I'm back on YouTube. I'm trying to find my people. Because being a level 5 is fun, but it'd be better if I had more level 5s to talk to.
Is there seriously some basic shit like cult light? Yeah. See, that's what struck me with the video, and even with her presentation. It's like that's it goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's like it's cultish from what we've seen for now. It's cultish, but it just doesn't have the execution and the polish that's needed to become a full-on cult. And I don't know if that's by choice or if she's just bad at it for now. But I have to say, as much as I don't like Minority Reporting someone, at this, considering what we've seen and where she's at and her rhetoric, I don't mind that she's being called out already. The fact that she's being called out before this becomes a full-fledged cult is, I would say, is fine. We've heard her rhetoric being hateful. We've heard her calling for people's self-harm and justifying it. We've heard her be extremely demeaning and like self-righteous about things, and baiting people into identifying with this sort of like hateful hierarchy. So there's nothing wrong with calling her out for that, at the very least. Cult or not, this is just weak content. Don't give her money until she makes a proper cult recruit video. Oh god. Pre-crime, yeah.
This is the only way I know how to do it. And if you think you're a level 5, you know how to get in contact with me. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.
If you know you're a level 5, you know how to get into contact with me. So this is interesting, and I feel like this just goes into the incompetence thing. If she was competent in what she was doing, she would know that her call for engagement should be to the level 4s. She should be like, if you're suffering in life, I have the answers for you. If she said something to that effect, that would be like a fucking 100% nail in the coffin. She's recruiting for a cult. She isn't doing that explicitly, even though she set it up rhetorically by saying herself up as the one in the know, the one who has the knowledge, the one who has been on this journey, and the one who's accessible. You can pay her to have sessions with her. But her call to action was for level 5s. I think that's just an honest mistake on her part. By honest, I mean, I do think she's actually recruiting for like a culty thing. She just hasn't really thought it out properly. Oh man, my urge to do armchair analysis on her is running sky high. Though, well, others are doing it. Don't worry. Fudging the lines may be a way to create plausible deniability. Maybe could be a clear decision to fudge the lines, to have plausible deniability. What level am I? I'm clearly level 2 because I care about politics. I'm very clearly level 2 in her hierarchy, but also I'm like a really depressed person, so I could like LARP as a level 4 if I want to, because I know the truth of the world. No, I'm not a fucking nihilist, so I sure as fuck I'm not a level 5.